Here we go. And we are live. We are back. Expert35. Again, 35 different industries, expert from each industry, talking about the challenges, talking about the hardship and the opportunities. Today, we're going to talk about a problem we all have in the house, and it's called plumbing. So we've got a responsible master plumber. Again, George York, a plumber here in Houston. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Expert35.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
No worries. This week, I'm actually in Montana, and we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to talk to a distillery, we're going to talk to fly fishermen, we're going to talk about experts in a couple of different areas, more in the rural world. So coming to straight from Ennis, Montana, I'm Gabriel, your host from Expert35. And in Houston, we've got George York. You said 18 years of experience, right? Well, you have seen it all. Tell us just tell us one of the things that just kind of stands out, life as a plumber.
Well, probably the worst job that I've ever been on was in an apartment complex where they had a problem with the sewer system, and so we were removing a bathtub and working in the closet, and we had to chip through the concrete and dig down, and trying to get people to quit using the sewer while you're trying to repair it is kind of a hard thing. So that's probably the worst job that I've ever been on.
Oh man. So interesting everything that you see, but you don't just do like sanitary lines and the water, but you also do gas lines, right? Tell us a little bit of this full spectrum of what a plumber manages and handles.
Correct. So we also plumbers do all the med gas piping in hospitals and uh, handle the sanitation and the water filtration system to bring clean drinking water and get rid of the waste that leaves your home and businesses.
So interesting, right? Because a lot of people don't understand that there's just a shortage of plumbers, but that's kind of what's happened in Texas right now. A year ago or in 2019, there was a law passed that they were saying like, "Hey, there's not enough plumbers. Let's just make everybody a plumber." But what happened with that? What's the status of that right now?
Right. So the Texas legislature tried to do away with the Texas State Board of Plumbing examiners and allow basically anybody could be a plumber. Anybody could call themselves a plumber. They could come into your house and they can do plumbing work. And fortunately, Texas Governor Greg Abbott came in and um, through an executive order, gave another 2 year standoff on that so that they could straighten out some of the problems and disagreements between the Texas legislature and the Texas State Board of Plumbing examiners.
So really important. Like first off, if you have somebody come into your house and they say, "Oh, you don't need to be a licensed plumber. Here's the law." They can actually show you that this law passed, but there's an executive order. So make
Oh,
sure that.
no, that's done away with.
Uh-huh.
Yes, they could come in and they could show you part of the story, but I would say if you're going to have a plumber come in your house, there's nothing wrong with asking for his license.
Correct.
You know, and we're required by law to carry it on us if we're performing plumbing work.
Now, do you have to have it on your vehicle? Because I see a lot of vehicles have like license number on it.
Correct. If you're working as a plumber for hire, then you have to have the master plumber's license or responsible master's plumber's license. So the person working in the van or the plumber doesn't have to have a master's license, but he has to be working under a master plumber.
Okay. You got some questions. You're a very popular man. Jennifer Johnson knows what's the weirdest thing you've pulled out of a pipe?
Um, we pulled out squirrels, birds. I actually had a coworker one time that was working down in the medical center, and it's unfortunate, but it was a deceased baby that had gone down the waste pipe.
That's hilarious. All right, we got a couple of other great questions. They want to know, what are your thoughts about electric tankless water heaters? Have they improved, and what's their heat up time?
So on tankless water heaters, you have electric and you have gas water heaters, tankless water heaters. Me personally, I'm a fan of the conventional, the old style water heater, but there are certain situations where I believe that tankless water heaters make sense. first of all, it takes approximately 7 years to in energy savings to make up the initial cost of installing a tankless water heater over a conventional water heater. So, but where they are is if you have a situation where you can't put in a second conventional water heater or a big enough one and you're running out of hot water, or if you're limited on space where you can put the water heater, then there's times like that where a tankless water heater is really valuable.
Great answer. And now we got a quick question. Repiping. Do we go PEX or we go copper? What are your thoughts?
So, in my opinion, both are equally good products. Copper to repipe a house in copper is going to cost you about 3 to 4 times what it's going to cost you to repipe a house in PEX. PEX is a good, sturdy, reliable product, and you see it being used more and more. Um, so a lot of times, there's situations where people just want copper, but other than that, then PEX is the way to go nowadays. Galvanize is outdated. You don't want to put galvanize in a home now, unless there's some situations where you're just replacing just a small section,
Sure.
and you may just replace galvanize with galvanize. But PEX is the way to go now.
All right. Before we get into all your fun facts and like do yourself DIY, Jennifer has a great question. How should I protect myself from hiring an unreputable plumber?
Well, the first thing you can do is ask for his license,
Hmm.
and then you can call the Texas State Plumbing Board, and if you have the plumber's name and license number, you can call and check in with the Texas State Board of Plumbing Examiners.
That's right. And you can also, and there's also other resources. Is there like a Better Business Bureau for the plumbers, or like what would you recommend in terms of, I guess, Nextdoor and all these other sites give you some idea of like how they are like, but not necessarily their license,
Google,
right?
the internet, you if if a company's not reputable, then you're going to find it if you Google them online. You'll find the bad things about them.
Right. Perfect. Well, tell us a little bit of the do-it-yourself. What are things that you think we should be aware of, like to conserve water and like things like around the house, especially as we're like, a lot of people are home. What are things to look at?
Well, the government and the EPA has passed laws that require, like, toilets used to flush with 2.8 gallons. Now they're down to every toilet that's sold is a 1.6 gallon flush. The downside to that is you have more stoppages because you're not putting as much water behind the waste um, when you flush it. But even shower heads, can only be so many gallons per minute. Faucets can only be so many gallons uh, per minute. So it's really the EPA that's kind of helping you save on using water. And then, things that people can look out for themselves. It's just look to see that you don't have any dripping faucets, running toilets, things like that that could be raising your water bill or making you use more water.
Yeah, Jennifer has a question. It's like, what are the best ways to conserve water? For first, let's talk about ways to make sure you're not losing water, right? So, what are ways to not lose water?
Well, there's one of the quickest ways you can do it is go out to your water meter. Don't use any water in the house. Go out to your water meter and look at your dial on your water meter. If you watch that for 15 minutes and you don't see it moving, then you know you're not wasting any water. You don't have any leaks that you're unaware of. Uh, one of the common leaks that people never notice is when your TMP valve go off on your or go bad on your water heater. That's your temperature and pressure relief valve, and sometimes those things can be leaking through. So you're slowly running, and those are tied into a drain so that you never see the water. It doesn't show up anywhere, and so that can be leaking. And as that water's leaking out of your water heater, then the water's continuing to fill up your water heater. So you can use quite a bit of water that way. One thing that people don't realize is a dripping faucet uses 8 gallons of water a day. a running toilet can use up to 200 gallons of water a day. That's 6,000 gallons a month. And so
Wow.
it doesn't take very, you have a couple running toilets and a dripping faucet, and then, you've got a pretty high water bill, or at least higher than what you should be paying.
For sure. Now, what about so leaking faucets, things behind the wall, right? What about sprinkler systems, right? I mean, that's probably what time of the day. I mean, that's another conversation, but do you see that as being a water saver?
Yes, I mean it's because basically with a sprinkler system, you can set it to go off and run when you need it to run, how often you want it to run, versus just putting a water hose out there. You notice if people before they had sprinkler systems and they were just putting the hose out there, or yard sprinkler systems, you notice a lot of it running off on the driveways, the sidewalks, and going down in the street and into the gutters. Where with a sprinkler system, you can control how much water you're putting on your grass and your lawn.
Right. Perfect. All right, George, my favorite part of the show is like 3 things we can do now.
Um, like I said, the best thing that I would tell a customer to do is, periodically, even if you do it once a year or twice a year, is to do that. Don't use any water in the house. Go out and check your meter. Make sure that it's not running, that you're not wasting water or spending money on your water bill that you don't have to. Um, the second thing, the most people don't realize, but you're actually supposed to service your water heater once a year, and that includes flushing and draining it. That's something easily a homeowner can do themselves. You don't necessarily have to have a plumber do it. You can use YouTube, watch videos on how to service your water heater once a year, because if you don't drain and service your water heater once a year, then you're going to get calcium built up in the bottom of it, because there's calcium in our water. And what that does is that just builds up, and year after year after year it builds up in your water heater, and then you start losing efficiency. So now, especially on a gas water heater, you have all of this sediment in the bottom of your tank, the burners underneath it, and you're having to heat through all of that calcium buildup before you actually start heating your water. Plus, you lose if you have a 50-gallon water heater, you get 10 years worth of buildup in the bottom of your tank. Then all of a sudden you got about 32, 40 or 42 gallons of water.
Right. We also talked about, I mean, know where your shut-off valve is, right? Like, then I just showed a photo. Like, you have to
Exactly.
know how to shut the valve off to your house.
So two things that I really recommend for homeowners is know where your shutoff is, because if you ever get a leak or notice a leak or water coming through your ceiling, the quicker you can get that valve shut off, the quicker it's going to limit your damage. And there's some times where instead of paying a plumber to come out on overtime or in the middle of the night, you can shut the water off, stop the damage, and call them out first thing in the morning. So you're already going to have to be paying repair bills. You can save yourself from having someone in your house in the middle of the night. Also, another thing that I would recommend to homeowners: most homes and businesses nowadays have a clean out on the outside of the home. So you want to know where your clean out is. It's usually a 4-inch white cap that's sticking up just barely above your grass level. If you ever start getting your sewer backing up in your home, rather than have it ruin your carpet, ruin your wood floors, is go out and unscrew that cap off. Let that waste go outside. Yeah, it's going to be in your yard, but it's better to be in your yard than in your house.
And we also talked a little bit about alarm systems. There's a way that we can actually like shut down the water to your entire home, correct?
Correct. There's everybody has smoke detectors in their house. 97% of people have some kind of smoke detector in their home. Uh, 20 to 30% of people have some type of security system. Yet, what people don't realize is that leaking pipes, water damage, broken pipes cause more damage to homeowners per year than burglary and fire put together. And very few people do anything to prevent that. Well, like you have up on the screen now, these are called flood stops. You can install them. A lot of people have them on their water heaters. The sensor goes down in the pan. If it ever detects any water, then it shuts off the water to your water heater and limits your damage. You know, if you have a water heater in your attic, they also make them for a whole house. So you put it on you install it on the inlet water line of your house, and if you ever um, get a water leak, then it's going to shut off the water to your house and limit your damage. These come in really handy when people are out of town or on vacation. I would recommend any homeowner, anytime the shutoff valve that you showed earlier, where the water goes in the house, is well, if you're going out of town for a week, turn that off. And
Right. There's no need to like have water in the house, and
yeah,
especially if it's for if you have a winter, it's a great way to winterize the house as well.
exactly. And you can turn that off and then turn a fixture on in the lower level of the house and drain the water down out of your water pipes. And so if you do have problem with one of your water pipes, or you develop a leak, then it's going to limit the damage to your home.
George, great timing. Thank you so much for all the great info you've shown us. I got one more question from Jana. She's asking, do you recommend using flushable wipes?
Yes, flushable wipes are they're fine to use. One of the way that you can test is a wipe truly flushable is get you a bowl of water, stick the wipe in there, walk away from it, come back, 30 minutes later, an hour later, and see, did it dissolve? If it dissolved in that water, it's going to dissolve in your sewer system. The only thing I would recommend, usually where people get in problems with wipies in general or flushable wipes, is when they put too many in the toilet at one time.
Perfect. George, if you're great timing, everything's amazing in terms of like being able to understand what you're doing. You're expert 25. If you want to learn more about George, if you want to have him come out, Hexagon Plumbing, I put your trucks up on the screen, but text expert 25 to the number of the screen. George, thank you so much for being with us today.
And thank you for having me, Gabriel.
No problem. All right, guys, you've heard it. I'm in Montana, so we're going to talk a little bit about fly fishing. We're going to talk about giving back. We're going to talk about getting the U.S. Open back up again and making it safe. Again, if you have anything to add, if you want to join us, join the conversation. We're going to put George loose and answer a lot of the other questions on Expert 35. We love seeing you guys. We'll be live again talking about the challenges, the hardship, and the opportunity. Guys, thank you for joining us. We'll see you guys soon.